going to break down the tactics that can win or lose an event final.
Very, very loosey, you can't do that! Oh my days!
The biggest fundamental for getting a good start is being as fast as you can, on time, and hitting that perfect air of the start line that gives you the shortest distance to Mark 1.
We're about to go racing here in Dubai. Perfect from Burling at the bottom of the line. What a start from the black foils. Oh, it's perfect from Fletcher, it's perfect from Slingsby, but Slingsby's got the faster angle into Mark 1. Oh, what a start. Fletcher's at absolute speed on the inside.
So this was decision time for Tom Slingsby. He's leading the boats back into the start box. One more manoeuvre to do before he judges his run into the start line. The advantage of being in the lead, well, you get to dictate how the start's going to play out, and that's classic Tom Slingsby. He loves to be the one making the decision and letting other people react. You turn back too early and you've got what's called time to kill. So you know if you sailed at full speed, you'd be early for the line. Well, your only option there is to slow down. And if you slow down, it gives those boats opportunity behind to come and attack you. Right now, Slingsby's the defender. Giles Scott on board the Canadian boat, he's attacking. And right at the moment where the two boats are on a collision course, which is coming up to us here on the screen right now, Australia needs to start avoiding. Slow to react by Slingsby. And that was there the moment he got the penalty. And they were tight together. They've been affecting each other. If we pause the action here and we see how early those two boats are compared to the British boat, they're going to have to go pretty slow in these last few moments to the start line. Fletcher, well, he's got space. He knows he's on a good time run for the start line. He's got a big gap in the middle of the fleet and he winds it up. He starts to aim straight at the line, straight towards Mark 1. And his wing, his trimmers, the whole crew on board are calling good timing, good timing. So when that line does turn white, he hits it at full speed, right in the middle of the fleet. But the crucial factor for Fletcher was he was going fast, and that was because he wasn't too early turning back towards the start line. Let's go back to the moment Canada engaged with Australia. We can see Canada turn their boat. They're on a collision course with Australia. Australia closest to the wind, so they're the giveaway boat in this situation. Slingsby got two options. He's hoping to get round in front of Giles Scott, the Canadian boat, to keep his options open on the start line, but he's got a huge area he could turn up into away from Giles Scott. He could take that right turn, head away from the Canadian boat and keep the gap open. He's compromised, but it's got to be better to avoid a penalty if he can, because by taking that penalty, he loses any chance of an equal start and means he's definitely going to have to start the race behind, and he's on the back foot. Well, things were happening fast here in Sydney, and as we now can see, the two boats are overlapped. What does that mean? Well, it means the Canadian boat's alongside. It's just got the front of its boat past the back of the Australian boat. They're overlapped. They're also now on a collision course, and as soon as you're on a collision course, you've got to keep clear as the giveaway boat. Racing rules of sailing say the boat closest to the wind, we call it the windward boat, is the giveaway boat. So Slingsby knows he's got to keep clear, but looking through his eyes, does he think they're overlapped? They're travelling at nearly 70, 75 kilometres an hour here. The boat's some 20, 30 metres away from each other. The front of Giles Scott boats is 15, 17 metres away from where he sits in the boat. So to judge where the front of that boat is really hard at these speeds. Slingsby was hoping he wasn't overlapped. In the umpire booth, well, they're looking from directly above. They've got that helicopter 2D view that's accurate to about a centimetre out there. So they can see all of this detail coming really, really quickly onto their screen. They see it in very black and white, and on the water, well, there's a lot of other things to see. So those minutity can easily be missed. But right now, Slingsby's a little bit too aggressive. He needs to start taking avoiding action from Giles Scott, or be very confident he can get across in front of him. He couldn't get across in front. He didn't take any avoiding action until too late, and that was deemed to be too risky. Big chance for collision. Canada had to avoid that collision, so the penalty was dished out to Slingsby. He could have avoided it with a turn away from Canada a lot earlier and given himself the chance to start that race level.
Here we go. Protest it, Annie.
As soon as Canada have decided to turn back to the start quite early at a similar time to Australia, they put themselves into fairly direct competition with the Australians. Now, in this situation, rules-wise, no real risk on the Canadians, but as soon as you're distracted by another boat, you're getting yourself too close to the line too soon to have a chance to give a big acceleration. We can see on the right-hand side of them, Great Britain quite well behind. No one else other than themselves to think about from a timing perspective back towards the start line. So rules-wise, there was no risk on Canada in this situation. Really, they were the right-of-way boat. Australia were the ones that needed to keep clear. But as soon as you're in a direct battle with the Australians, you're sailing back towards the line too fast, too early, and you're limiting your options for later in the start.
What a start. Fletcher's at absolute speed. On the inside, it's Canada. Emirates, Great Britain are going to be able to lead at Mark 1 here.
This start, we can see all of the boats ended up lined up, much more similar timing back to the start line. So once again, Slingsby loves that move of being the first to turn back to the start, but we see all three boats turning back at a similar time. Plenty of respect out there on the start line in this one. Not too much boat-on-boat confrontation, all of them giving themselves a little bit of space, and of course space is so key in this final run-in to be able to control your own destiny and your own timing. No boat too close together. Right, now it's just a race to hit that right-hand red line on the right-hand side of our screen there. Theoretically, Fletcher optimally placed, lined up for the pole position here, but we know that it's all about speed when the gun comes, so who can time their run at the start line fastest? They're all going to have a straight line, not too much boat-on-boat confrontation, but Fletcher a bit closer to the line at this moment, a little bit later to accelerate, and that's the difference in boat speed when the gun goes. Pretty much picture perfect from those first two boats into the line here, but a faster angle for Australia. Fletcher makes one last aggressive move. Windward boat must keep clear, of course. We've heard that one before, haven't we? But this time Slingsby does enough. Just. He's round the front, leads at Mark 1.
All the way down.
So let's freeze frame here and look back at the start. We can see on this start, the boat's not too interactive, not a very combative start here. And that's all to do with the setup of the start line. Often we see one position on the start, as indicated there as the pole position on our start line, the blue triangles, but it won't be biased by much. So if you start there, you're going to have less distance to Mark 1. If you start nearer the bottom of our screen to nearer the upwind end of the start line, you've got a faster angle. And there's not a lot of difference there. So it's, despite there being a pole position, there's not a lot in it. So all the crews have decided, let's not fight too hard. It's a windy day. Gusty, hard to sail the boats here in New Zealand, and penalty points for any interactions can be really costly. We all know that from watching SailGP racing. So all the boats decide, let's give ourselves some space. That space means it's just a race between them and the start line. We don't need to worry too much about the other boats. How well can we judge our timing as we turn towards the start line, wind the speed up and look to hit that line at the moment it turns white at full speed. As soon as it's as windy as this, all the crews will be thinking, what's my safest angle to sail in? If I'm sailing two across the wind, can I handle the power of that? If I can turn a little bit away from the wind, I might be going faster. But again, can I fly the boat accurately at that high speed? For the British team, they would have been thinking right now, well, all things being equal, at least if I'm on the downwind end, I'm on the inside at turn 1. That's one fact, one controllable thing I've got. The other boats have got to go fast enough to get right round me if they want to lead at Mark 1 for Slingsby. Well, he's thinking, okay, I'm going to have the fastest angle. I'm just going to send my boat at Mark 1 as absolutely flat out as I can and trust flight controller Jason Waterhouse to keep me in the water. That's it from me with Risk and Reward. Look forward to bringing you another episode soon.